ask because I've worked in sales as well. So I kind of have like an idea of how things go.
Yeah, and Alex is actually coming from a previous sales job himself, so he's got the basics down. I think it's just a move into industry. Is that right, Alex?
Software sales. It's different. Yeah.
So you were previously in software sales, and now you're like kind of selling yourself, so to speak, in a non-inappropriate manner.
No, I'm looking to get into software sales. I was previously just in other sales. I did insurance sales, and I also sold like personal and training development courses.
So how does what you're talking about relate to selling software?
Well, I mean, in one level, many, right? I mean, we always have to deal with our attachment to outcomes when we're selling anything. So whether it's software sales or anything else, but this actually doesn't have to relate to software sales. The interview specifically suggests me to pitch something I'm passionate about and pitch it in a way that it would also appeal to the hiring manager.
Yeah. So
hence that's why in the beginning I asked him what's an important area in your life, so that we can get it into his life and he could try to see if anything and any of these benefits would be applicable to him. You know what I mean? That's why I asked him about his life, why that's important to him.
So this really strikes me as the kind of thing where the wording of the brief is super important. And that stood out to me from what you said just now, Alex, is that you're to pitch something that you're passionate about.
I think the most important thing to remember is that this is still an interview. And I think it might be a smarter decision to say what you think will give you the greatest chance of getting hired rather than, a deep, vulnerable like entrance into yourself. Because at the end of the day,
For sure.
That might appeal more to someone who can understand it, but to someone who can't, that type of stuff will fly right over their head. One unfortunate part about, going down this path is you come to realize a lot of people simply don't have the depth that you see within yourself. And that's accompanied by that lower level of awareness.
Doug's nodding along. I know Alex knows this as well.
Yeah. I know, guys. Yeah. Everything you guys are saying is like everything that has been going through my head.
Yeah,
exactly. We're just different versions of yourself playing the same game of devil's advocate that you're playing in your head.
Yeah, exactly. I just like I thought about maybe going with like some food, like a crispy chicken sandwich, because that shit is so good. I can sell that all day long. But at the same time, I want to like.
I think the smartest thing to say would.
It's hard to do a discovery call about a chicken sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
about food.
I think you should say that the one thing you're most passionate about is overachieving. If they can see that, you have a deep desire to want to be better than all your opponents, then that's definitely something that might influence them to hire you. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to sales, it's really just who wants it the most. Because it's really a numbers game when it comes down to it.
That's interesting. You just struck an idea. Maybe instead of framing it as like spirituality or deeper awareness of yourself, all of these kind of elusive terms and descriptions, what if I just said, what I'm passionate about is like going above and beyond, overachieving. And I feel like that's probably something that this person would have in common with me, given he's in a management position.
You could say that what you're passionate about is learning how to use your mind to your advantage. Yes, and that's something that works both ways.
That's very good. That's very good. Thank you. Yes, that's very good. Learning how to use your mind to your advantage. Exactly. That's much more head on. And I feel like I could keep all the other stuff the same. Because how
I think you still need a product, though, a thing.
I mean, he doesn't need a product because like it's an interview. You know, he's just.
But the brief says you have to pitch something you're passionate about.
No,
It's the
something,
drive.
yeah, like something I'm passionate about. Yeah. Like, so an example they gave me is like golf or something. Someone
Right.
talked to him about golf and how he struggles and what his strengths are, and then pitch different ways on how he could help his golf game.
So is he selling golf coaching? That point, right?
Yes.
So,
so
this is what I'm getting at, right? So if we decide that it's going to be about using the mind to increase sales, well, that's mindset coaching.
Mindset coaching, okay, or mindfulness coaching, even you could say, but mindfulness might be a little too abstract.
Well, I think most people know what mindfulness is at this point, but the image that the uninformed is going to have is of sitting full lotus on the.
Yeah, I mean the word is there, but the definition is all willy nilly.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I suppose without reading the actual brief out, we're somewhat speculative here.
Say it again.
I said, I suppose without you reading the actual brief out, we're somewhat speculative here. Do you have to have an actual product that you're selling? For example, mindset coaching. No, you don't.
No,
okay.
They did not say they had to have.
It's just
it's
just kind of the way for the hiring person to like get a peek into his life and see what type of person he is based off his hobbies and interests.
I see.
Yeah, and I think
they try to make it seem like it's not a test.
They want to see my ability to sell too.
Yeah.
Ask them questions and connect my product to, what they struggle with, to how they could benefit.
So there's another angle on why it might be useful to have a product, something that is a thing that you're relating all of their stuff back to, because they could go anywhere. They can change direction. They can swerve.
No, I see what Dan's saying, because if you take like golf for example, it's the same concept. You can talk about how you use that learning how to change your mind to make yourself better at golf. But you see, the golf is the context that it's in. This is the content that you're trying to explain, but you need context to put it in. Something to apply the situation to.
Well, I think, also everyone knows what golf is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, everyone knows what golf is, but in trying to sell something while saying that you're passionate about golf, you could say, oh, I have these struggles when I'm playing golf, and this is how I overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where
but we can get that far, right? I have these struggles when I'm selling, and this is how I overcome them. So we can get that far, right, with what we've got currently. It's just
that you need the thing is,
leap.
I feel like it's not really like that straightforward. They don't want it to be about selling. Like that's kind of the trick in it.
Do you mean the prospective employer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that's what I'm trying to get there. I feel, I could be wrong. Once again, this is purely speculation, but I feel like they're trying to give you a test that seems like it's not a test.
Right.
It's a matter of reading the hidden meaning behind the hidden meaning.
And indeed, the way to bag the job is to
truly understand the assignment.
Salesman. Right. That's the objective here, right? Is to sell yourself as a salesperson, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So personally, I would want to have a really solid idea of what I am selling going into that call. Or I feel the potential for it to just wander off is huge.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like you should also just, take into account everything that we've talked about right now, but also just do what you feel is best, because I feel
Yeah.
like the exact, like, what you're supposed to be doing kind of may have been like gotten lost through translation a little bit, because I can tell that we're all like giving our best ideas based off what we think it is that you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm sure that our ideas of what it is that you're doing doesn't relate exactly into what it is that you're actually doing.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So would you say that like a mindset practice then? Is that something that sounds like a product?
Mindset coaching or sales coaching seems to be the closest that we've gotten to an actual product.
Mindset coaching. Okay.
What you're passionate about is mindset as it relates to sales.
Okay.
And so if you were to create a product out of that, it would be mindset coaching.
Mindset coaching. Yeah. And so the idea is that after he experiences the value and benefit from that
New perspective.
From that new perspective, yeah, that he'll get from going through that outline with him, then he should be more inclined to purchase mindset coaching.
Yeah. You have to focus on that perspective aspect, I feel like, because perspective is everything. If you can get them to empathize with you, then you did what you came there to do.
Yeah. The issue that I hear with that, now slamming into another objection, is that you're going meta with that, right? You're on an interview for a position as a salesperson, and you're kind of going upstream to almost as if it were an interview for you to be a sales coach. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dan.
Not quite. What do you mean? Like, how do you see this being an issue?
You're in an interview to be a salesperson.
Well, he's not really like offering to coach the person's sales team. He's just saying this is why he's the better candidate, because he has this different perspective of looking at the sales game as a whole.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting a little too into the nanoparticles of this thing. I like really what it is they're just asking me to like kind of pitch something to them about what I'm passionate about. They want to see like my enthusiasm. They want to see me come to life. They want to see my creativity. They want to see how I can walk a client through a call and lead them to not knowing what's going on, to getting familiar with my product, and then admitting to themselves how it could actually benefit their life or their business.
So what you do is you tell them, I'm passionate about the mind. I'm passionate about how it works. I'm passionate about what actions cause people to respond in the ways that they do. These laws of causality and reaction. That way they see that you look deeply into what makes a person react the way they does, what makes someone more likely to go through with the sale and what doesn't. That's how it ties back into the sales world.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I feel like because spirituality is everything. It's everything in life. It can be accessible and used in any
every
area.
aspect.
That when I ask him what's an important area of life to you, and we start getting into that, I'll get everything I need from him.
Yeah.
To go further. Right.
Yeah.
So if he says, well, I mean, obviously it may require him to be a little vulnerable, but I don't know. I feel like I won't have an issue with that because I used to do that when I worked at Landmark, and I would talk to people on the phone and register them into these kind of courses that help you like question.
If you can get him to be vulnerable and give him something that helps with what he says to you, that will be very good.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a bit of a risk, but at the same time, I think
it is a bit of a risk, but if you can get him to be like, huh.
Yeah.
Like realize that you're teaching him something he did not previously know, then you're set.
And I feel like if you're a good manager, you're going to want to be taught, because that's what a good manager is. They encourage people to develop that learning mindset, and they have it themselves. So I feel like I'll be able to do this well, guys. Thank you. I appreciate kind of just going back and forth about it. I think,
of course,
the most value of this interview is going to come from his responses, from his answers, and I think
you'll be able to work with whatever he says. Honestly, the main thing I have to stress is you have to be very careful about how you term things and how you phrase things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Cool.
Lars, did you feel done earlier?
Me?
Yeah.
Did I feel
like we kind of got halfway through.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
You went ahead.
No. No problem.
A link or something, right? But did you have more to say?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm gonna eat up my dinner. AFK for a bit.
No worries, brother. We were pretty thorough with that, I would say.
Yeah.
We're pretty thorough. Yeah, we
definitely discussed every aspect of it.
Yeah. Good. You feel like you've got enough to think about.
Cool, guys.
When is the call?
Yeah.
When is the call?
Tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Hey.
Oh la la.
Tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Central Time. Yeah.
You know who's missing right now?
Who's that, Ron?
Ryan.
Yes, Ryan is missing. Yes.
You know, I started that National November Writing Month thing.
Oh, you
he
did?
inspired me. Yeah.
How's it going?
Oh, sorry. It's going pretty good so far. I'm a little behind because I started late, but I have like 6,000 words roughly.
Great. What are you writing on?
Well, originally I was gonna, write about the mind, this, that, but I was like kind of looking at the template when I was there, and I was like, you know what? Like, I wanna test my abilities as a writer, and I decided to write a love story of sorts.
Okay.
And I think I have a pretty good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to like put a lot of detail and depth into the characters, make them as relatable as possible. And it actually has like a sad ending to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just so the main character is a guy who has like emotional attachment problems. Like he has problems expressing himself after his dad dies. And this girl comes into his life, and basically he just messes it up because he was never taught how to like react to his emotions and to truly understand them.
That does sound like a good premise.
Yeah.
And so him messing it up is the sad ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Like it kind of just goes to show that he messed it up for himself. But what makes it even sadder is that it wasn't even his fault, because at the end of the day, like, I want the story to convey that it was literally just a matter of nature versus nurture. Because he lives alone with his mom, and I'm trying to like show that his mom also reinforced this wrong way of behavior and thinking onto him.
Okay, and is there going to be any kind of redemption for the protagonist is he going to learn something about himself at least? Or are you just going to be...
Well, he's going to learn something, but it's kind of like looking back at it type of thing.
Yeah.
He's going to try to redeem himself, but it's not going to work out. I'm going to write a little excerpt making it seem like it did, just to screw with the readers.
I'm kind of a sucker for those kinds of endings or plots that don't kind of work out that typical happy ending thing. I feel like the ending is such a foregone conclusion.
Exactly. Like, I feel like there's already so much out there. Like, I have to do something to make it worthwhile to read.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Most stories, exactly how they're going to finish by the time you read the first chapter, right? I remember being very pleasantly surprised by the Hunger Games books, which I read years ago after seeing the films. And the films, of course, are just Hollywood nonsense.
Yeah, not at all.
Read these books, but I suppose I would have to kind of spoil the the ending of the whole trilogy. Is everyone happy for me to do that?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, the protagonist ends up a basket case.
Oh, wow.
Because she's seen so much shit, right? like they do in these kind of action Hollywood films.
Yeah.
Right, but in the films, it's not what you'd call a happy ending. But she's fine. In the books, there's like a whole chapter at the end describing how fucked up she is.
What exactly is a basket case?
What was that?
What exactly is a basket case?
Oh, sorry, Doug.
That's someone who's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like
I
mental
figured,
asylum.
I had never had this term explained.
Right.
Are you from Sweden, Doug?
No, I'm from Germany.
Oh, Germany. Okay. Dog is it's a common Swedish name, so that's why I asked.
Are you from Sweden?
I lived in Sweden for a long time. So.
Oh, I used to live in Finland, but only for a year.
Okay.
Doug, you've traveled around Europe a fair bit, if I recall.
Yeah, more or less. I've been to the UK once for like 10 days or something.
Okay.
Same goes for France. The most recent Poland for a week, and a bit of Norway, Sweden, Finland, the most extensive, I'd say. Austria. But I've never left the European continent.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, it's pretty big.
Yeah, and I'm not too keen on flying. That's one of the reasons why.
Okay.
I'm very curious to see the rest of the world, but I'll either have to find other ways or I'll have to bite the bullet and face that flying anxiety.
Right.
Why don't you like flying?
What?
Why don't you like flying?
Because you're literally soaring through the air in a metal tube at alarming heights and speeds.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to be fair, they do have like many safety precautions.
I know, and I mean statistically, it's the most safe way to travel.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like, look, I completely understand how irrational fears work. Like, you shouldn't be afraid, but you are anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I go on planes, I'm like, wow, humanity really invented the technology to like be a bird. And you get to watch TV while you do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing, for sure.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing. But hey, Doug, you've got plenty to see on the European continent yet, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
You could always go by boat.
I actually thought about doing that sometime.
I actually recently just saw this video for like a 9-month cruise that visits like 100 different countries, and you see like all the major landscapes on Earth. And yeah, it's extremely time consuming and expensive, but maybe one day.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I've had this idea in my head for years, and maybe it could come true next year. As you do a road trip starting in Germany, going through Poland and the Baltic states all the way up to Finland.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
That would be very awesome.
I think everyone's thinking a little bit more about alternatives for travel aside from flying right now, right?
I mean, if you're trying to go overseas, it's either plane or boat. That's pretty much it.
Of course.
I once saw some kind of screenshot from Google Maps where someone had typed in a route to some other continent, and it literally said jet ski across the Atlantic Ocean.
That would be so cool.
Be an adventure for sure.
Yeah.
Doug, I know that you've been trying to get hold of me. Was there something specific that you wanted to talk about?
Kinda, yeah. I'm not sure if I can get into it right now.
Sure.
But yeah, I seem to have hit this, or started to become open to it more. This phase where there's just no running from the dissatisfactoriness of literally everything anymore.
Woohoo!
And yeah, while I'm trying to adopt that attitude as well, that it's good to see it, it's quite a punch, because I'm like, man, everything sucks.
Yeah, that's the epitome of human life.
That insight into the first noble truth is sometimes experienced as a bit of a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
So we roll with it.
It seems that it's something has opened up that can hit me even more fully experientially now.
Yeah, now you should contemplate on how you only ever experience one thing
at a time, you mean?
No, you only ever experience one thing.
Which is, Ron?
It. The seamless totality of reality. This hits into non-duality.
There's a lot of shit happening that I could also, at least it feels that way right now, that I could never possibly put into any words.
Of course, that's what this is all about. In order to truly understand it, you must experience it yourself.
Yeah.
But what I just said is it's an insight towards non-duality. How this subject-object relationship that you currently perceive reality as is just another concept in your head. It kind of helps to realize that there's no distinction between inside and outside.
Oh yeah, that has also started to happen in a way, but it's a weird point for me, because so far it had often been that I had at least been able to have words for what was happening, and suddenly more and more things are happening where I'm like, what the fuck?
I mean, see, this is like, it's kind of paradoxical, because there will always be words to describe what it is that you're experiencing, but for someone who hasn't experienced that themselves, the words will never be understood in the way that you would be able to understand them.
Sure. But so far, I don't even have those words yet.
No, I understand. That completely comes down to technical terms, though.
Yeah, and enjoy the ride while it lasts, Doug. I know that might sound crazy while you're experiencing that perceived punch in the gut that insight into the first noble truths sometimes brings, but the freshness of that experience, oh my, what a display.
In a way, it just seems that there is a certain feeling to it that I've been familiar with for years, of course, but it kind of just feels like it's starting to kind of grow and grow and grow and expand into everything in a way.
The
cool. Very
cool.
Hey
guys, it sounds really awesome what you guys are talking about. My favorite stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to say sorry for disconnecting. My phone actually died, but I actually do have to go. My girlfriend Abby, I got to get her car from the dealership. But I just want to say thank you so much for your input, guys. Really appreciate it.
Good luck on the course.
Thank you.
You'll all be with me tomorrow. I'll let you guys know what the result is.
Yeah,
Yeah, good luck.
Message in the thread so we can all find out, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, brother.
I'll talk to you guys later, okay?
Right. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.
Great day.
Bye.
So I have a question about this. You guys
go
are
ahead,
talking about, if you allow me. Like, there's this word that I haven't really, like, I've only pinged on it, the rigpa.
Rigpa.
That it's
word.
like,
I've
it's like
read a Reddit article about
blossoming
that somewhere.
of the mind. like this, what Ron said, that it.
Rigpa is recognition of awareness.
Wow. No, that sounds like,
That's
wow.
simplest and most
Wait,
satisfactory.
actually,
The word
I saw
Rigpa.
an article on Reddit once. A guy explained what Rigpa was really good. I'm going to try to find it right now.
Right.
And then I think
The Tibetan stuff is wild.
here it's the knowing that the knowing is the ground of being, sometimes called awareness. When we begin practicing, we may think we are being mindful and practicing mindfulness. At some point, the knowing is. It isn't an exercise that we are doing. It is what is fundamental. Sounds, sights, sensations, smells, tastes, and thoughts are the knowing. It's not I hear an airplane, just hearing. The sound and the knowing is the same thing. The senses are primary to the idea of me having a thought, me seeing a sight.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank Reddit.
Reminds me a little bit of what I've read from Artem's things, where how he describes the beginning of self-realization, the jump from perceiving things to becoming perceptions.
Yeah, the jump from association with ego to association with awareness.
For me, I think Rigpa is like quite an advanced practice though, because like from what I understand, like if you just tell somebody who hasn't practiced for like a lot of years and isn't like familiar with the Tibetan system to do this, it can lead to a lot of confusion a lot of times, because there's not much of an emphasis on changing what is. And and just there's a whole lot that of like preliminary stuff in the Tibetan tradition before you get to Rigpa, like many years.
Yeah,
I completely agree, because when I first read that definition, I misunderstood it myself.
Yeah. We're in a really interesting moment in history with regard to all of that, because back along, things like that could be kept secret. Now, not a chance.
Yeah, but I think Rigpa, it's also just, it ties back to self-awareness at the end of the day.
Well, of course, we can say from the vantage point of realization that, of course, that's how it is.
I'm not even saying from the vantage point of realization. I'm saying Rigpa is self-awareness, just not object-specific. How everything is aware of itself. It's basically saying that the sound is self-aware. The sound is the same as knowing. You know, when I first read it, I thought that it meant that hearing the sound was the same as knowing that there was a sound there, not that the sound itself was the same as the knowledge of the sound.
Yeah. And of course, whilst we're inclined to think hard, that's a big old invitation to do a lot of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Some big old word puzzles to get stuck into, right? All of which is lifting us out of our experience.
Exactly.
But I know that back along, the Tibetans used secrecy a lot. They were very secretive about the Dzogchen practices. Now you have Dzogchen lineage holders putting teachings up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Thank God for the internet.
So they have decided, at least some of them, that the cat is out of the bag, I imagine is the is the thinking. So,
and what a mixed bag it is.
yes, like everything else. So perhaps their thinking is that since the cat is out of the bag, we better tell everyone all about it. And then, of course, there's all kinds of opportunities for confusion along the way. And as you mentioned, Joe, traditionally, there were all these preliminary practices, beginning with things like cultivating gratitude for human birth. Very relational. I am a human. I am cultivating gratitude for my human birth. Very relational thing, very dualistic practice. And then, as you say, Joe, over years, in most cases, for the practitioner.
Like, is it Tonglen, where it's you take in the pain and suffering of the world and send out loving kindness? That's also another one that is very relational.
That's great.
But it's kind of getting your mind in the right mindset, because that's the key to start, is like, from what I understand, is that you can't work from that place until your mind is prepared a little bit in this way, or maybe you can. I don't know.
Well,
it depends on.
I think I'm going to shift my practice over to a more Vipassana practice. I don't know. I had a recent insight lately. I've been doing a lot of do nothing meditation lately. It's been seeming to work a lot for me, being able to simply abide in awareness. But I want to incorporate Vipassana meditation into my practice, simply because, I had an insight the other day. I was talking to one of my friends about all this type of stuff, just giving him the concept so that he could conceptualize it. And the way I like talking to people about this type of stuff is from a very analytical point of view. For example, with the Rigpa, the self-awareness, I was telling him, have you guys ever heard of the double slit experiment?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so Rulaz, that's how you said no. So basically, this was an experiment where scientists were observing the behavior of atoms. And one thing that they realized was that the atoms, they acted differently when they were being observed, which it kind of went to show that the atoms were self-aware. And that really goes to show it on a quantum level. Every atom in your body is aware of itself. And what I like so much about Vipassana is
Which Vipassana do you mean when you say Vipassana? Because the word, do you mean like Goenka Vipassana, or do you mean something else?
Yeah, simply body scanning.
Okay.
But see, what I've come to learn is with the Vipassana, with the body scanning, when you do it, it kind of, first you start off with kind of a wider range of awareness in which you scan your body, and then you're able to have a stronger concentration power, shrink down more and more until it's at the point where you're kind of taking these sensations apart at a microscopic level. So the awareness is there, but you're simply shrinking it down smaller and smaller. And you're kind of aligning yourself with that quantum awareness.
Okay.
Have you seen Dhamarato talk about Vipassana?
No, I have listened to some of Dhamarato's conversations with Daniel Ingram.
He was with Goenka for like a bunch of years in the 80s, so he can be a good person to talk to about it, because he has like a lot of experience there.
Well, thank you for letting me know. Yeah. I'm gonna look up his videos on YouTube right now, but I definitely would like to talk to him. I know now that I can, thanks to Dan.
Yeah, there's especially a video where he's advising somebody that is going on a Vipassana retreat, and he's just talking about the Vipassana method and how it differs from his method, and I think it's kind of interesting. But...
Oh, no way! I'm on Dvorato's YouTube. Oh wow, this is gonna be on Dvorato's YouTube too.
Yes, most likely. So he takes all of these calls and uploads them. Yeah. Thousands of videos, I think, now on Dhammarato's channel.
Yeah, now. Wow.
A whole library of Dharma.
Yeah.
How many?
There's Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. Wow. This is like Daniel Ingram and Dvorato discuss lineage, industrial psychology.
Oh, Guru Viking.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guru
no, I
Viking's
watched the
great.
Guru
I watched
Viking video.
I watched a really good one with Guru Viking the other day. He was talking to some like yogi guy who was like 31 and somehow and they were talking a lot about Dzogchen and Brigpa and stuff like that in that talk. But
Do you know the name of the person he was talking to?
it's just his latest one. I think it's like episode 120 or something like that. But yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, the guy was really interesting because he's 31 and self-proclaimed like fully enlightened. And
I think I know who you're talking about. It's Frank Yang, isn't it?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't him. Let me see who it was.
It's my favorite spiritual person. I've
The
learned
last
the
one
most off this
is
channel.
Tubten Punsok.
Delson. No, it was Delson Armstrong. That's who we talked
Delson.
about. And this
Okay.
this guy was. I mean, he was pretty good. I mean, he's pretty impressive because he grilled him pretty hard about his achievements and stuff, and he had like a good response. Kind of. I don't know. I was impressed when I heard him talk. Sometimes you find a connection to people, and
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Now to backtrack a little, Doug, to the first noble truth, it's really important when we're seeing dukkha everywhere to remember that there's a second, third, and fourth noble truth. This first noble truth by itself sure looks shitty.
Yeah.
Suffering.
Dukkha.
Now Dhamarato asked his teacher back in the monastery.
I know what you're gonna say, I think.
Have I told you this before?
I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah. Why do we have to bother with the first noble truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember them? Well,
Why do we?
The very brief anecdote for everyone else, which is that I think it was Achan Po who said to Dhamarato, "Know thy enemy." So there is usefulness in examining the first noble truth, but without the second, third, and fourth, it looks really bleak.
Yeah.
Second, third, and fourth.
Yeah.
Am I missing one? I know that there's suffering, no self, and impermanence.
Oh, now
those are the three
That's
seals.
not the noble truth.
Those are the three seals.
The four noble truths. So I was just thinking of something else.
Those are the three characteristics.
Yeah.
The second noble truth is that it's all in the mind, aka dependent origination. The third noble truth is that there is a cessation of dukkha. You've already experienced it. Everyone has at least once. You laugh at a joke, for example.
Yeah.
What we'd all like is for that cessation to occur more often. And so, good news, the fourth noble truth is the way to that cessation of dukkha, aka the Eightfold Noble Path, the practice.
Huh.
Pure view, pure.
Sorry, real life?
Pure view.
Pure view.
That's the first one.
Yes. Well, yes, view indeed would be one of those 8 folds. Yeah.
For me, it's starting to sink in a bit, because with this comes also an additional kind of insight or observation that there is still this pretty compulsive attempt in the mental space to find a way of arranging circumstances in order to change this situation.
But you see that comes and goes.
Yes, and I'm also starting to see that it might not be the way to go. It might not how things work.
Yeah. So you have some evidence? Is it at the level of evidence? you have a hypothesis at least,
Yeah.
maybe with a little evidence, that that might not work the way that you were told. It might not be a satisfactory method.
Yes, and right now I just wrote it down for myself yesterday that while I don't think that I want to forget all about where it's possible trying to influence circumstances in the way that I prefer them to be, I really want to get down to that level or rediscover that level at which I'm more permanently in a state of, oh, it's not that important, even if things aren't that preferable right now. It's not that urgent.
Yes, but you will never lose the ability to change circumstances.
Yes.
Now, obviously within your influence, right?
Yes.
But I know that we've spoken about fear around letting go.
Yeah.
Right? We don't lose the ability to decorate our home if we would prefer it a different way, for example. It's just that preference, as you've said, is seen to be not important, which is another way of saying we're going to be okay if we don't decorate our home.
Yeah. You're still going to decorate it the way you want it, though, but
yeah,
it's not the end of the world if you don't.
Yeah, you're not depending upon that leather couch for your happiness.
Yeah, see, that's actually something that's been like starting to click in for me a lot lately. I've been kind of starting to feel like I'm losing my sense of agency, so to speak. You know, things are just kind of happening on their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you saw a good reason to get yourself a leather couch, you could
I would do
it, right?
But it's not even me doing it. It's also just happening on its own. You know, previous experiences dictated that this meat suit thinks a leather couch would be better than, I don't know, a non-leather one. And
right, and when we're all hot with the burning desire and the attachment and the aversion and all of the stuff, all of the motivators that used to get us out to the furniture store, as that falls away, it feels as though, well, shit, I might never do anything ever again.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because you can't imagine what kind of motivation could remain for doing anything absent that. But I don't remember the context for this, but I think it was a question that was put to the Buddha. I think that someone asked the Buddha, why do you teach? You say that you're satisfied with everything as it is. Why do you teach? Or actually, it might have been a question that was put to Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. That feels more right on with memory. Anyway, the answer to the question is that the Buddha taught because of wisdom and discernment, because he saw that it was beneficial to teach. He didn't need to teach. Maybe he didn't even want to teach. He saw that it was beneficial to teach.
Another good one related to that is that somebody asked the Buddha, why, if you're enlightened, do you choose to live in the forest alone? And, and he says, well, I still have a human body, and I find dwelling in remote forests pleasing to the body and pleasing to the mind, because people were like, if you're enlightened, why can't you just be in the city? Why can't you? And that was his simple thing to them.
Yeah, and I like it more. I suspect that he could have lived in the city, right?
Yeah.
So I remember speaking with Dvorato one time about some quote from the sutras about the Buddha saying something to do with that he'd be perfectly happy sleeping on the ground. And I had taken that to mean that I should go sleep on the ground. If I want to be a good little practitioner, I got to go sleep on the ground. Of course, that's not what the Buddha was saying.
Funny story, I actually do sleep on the ground because I prefer it.
There you go. So, yeah.
So I reading the Bali canon, I've encountered a lot of sutras where he talks, or it's portrayed like he talks to, I don't know how to portray it, like beings from another dimensions, like the king of the lower kingdoms and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, the Buddha spoke to many people throughout his life, many of whom had magical beliefs. And the comfortable explanation for us is that he was teaching. He was teaching people in terms that they would understand.
Yeah.
As we know, and we've been discussing these kinds of issues in our calls these past few weeks, if you go in all guns blazing with everyone, it's like this: you're deluded. Burn your religious books. Well, of course they're not going to listen to you, right?
Yeah.
But if you give them a little, maybe there's some teaching that can take place.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think you have to realize that in that time there was a lot more like magical thinking as a regular thing.
Yeah.
So if he would have been talking like that, it would have just been like, well, of course, you know, like, I mean, that's just how things are, you know,
right.
and it wouldn't have been seen like, but our minds naturally are really skeptical, and it can cause a lot of problems when you take a modern mind that's like been trained to be skeptical and like, but wait a minute, like, how can I believe the other stuff if this doesn't make any? I mean, the Pali Canon's pretty mild too. If you get into like the Mahayana texts, like the Lotus Sutra, I mean, he talks to like 100,000 beings from all these different realms, and and you're like, what? I think there's like 10 pages of all the different people that he's talking to, you know. But yeah,
and of course,
I don't know about all that.
A lot of this stuff was written down after the Buddha was long gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is it's the crazy stuff. Like.
Yeah, and then my favorite way to bring it all home is to remember that it's about dukkha nirodha, and that if my pondering the reality of these various wacky ideas is bringing me to dukkha nirodha, great. If it's causing me confusion, well, the thing that the Buddha spoke most strongly about, so strongly that he said it was the only thing he ever taught, was dukkha nirodha. Which makes you wonder, well, why the hell is all this other stuff included? Well, people like to include stuff.
But it's like you know,
the Pali Canon was dukkha nirodha.
Well, but it's I heard a good analogy. I think it might have been Dhamma who said this, where he's like, yeah, I mean, the whole goal of the game of football is to score a goal, but then think of how much has been written and talked about, and how much people can talk and talk and talk. So it's pretty simple, but yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I don't know if I believe about all those higher dimensional beings.
Well, what reason do we have to believe it, right? And we don't have to take a stance at all.
Well, logically, I actually have a few reasons not to believe in it. I was watching this video not too long ago that a few string particle physicists were talking about. You know, they were talking about the fourth dimension, and you know, it's something that is available right here and now, but we simply don't have the capability of observing it as humans. Our brain is only able to process 3 dimensions. And then they started talking about these hypothetical fourth dimensional beings. And see, I think that's where the error comes, because, they use this analogy how, you take an ant experiences reality in 2 dimensions. If you take something from an ant's peripheral view and you pick it up to that ant, it disappears.
Yeah.
So the ant lives in the same reality as us, and the ant only experiences 2 dimensions while we experiences 3. But the ant is still capable of seeing us. The ant knows that we exist. It is just unable to see us from our perspective.
Yeah.
So in the same way, the fourth dimension is right here and now, but we're just unable to see it. And if we were to come across a being who could or couldn't, we would be able to perceive them. They would be no different from us. The only difference is we would only be able to perceive them in the third dimension, whereas they would be able to perceive us in the fourth.
Right. So the ant can perceive 2 dimensions of a human being that it encounters.
Exactly.
Right. There's a lot of theories out there.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's really just mental masturbation.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, the rabbit holes that you can tumble down in the realm of science, right? And it's like, some of these theories you need to have a PhD to even access.
Yeah.
Right?
At least
So it's kind of like, well, hold on, if we're having to build up that much knowledge to even begin to speak about the idea.
And then, like, I just think that's the craziest part, how they've been, like, studying this stuff all their lives, and I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I can already, like, see clear flaws in the theory.
Wow.
At least from my perspective. I could be wrong for all I know, but it's just, I'm seeing contradictions within the argument there.
Yeah, and hey, a contradiction in reasoning is a contradiction.
Yeah.
Of course, you could probably find folks to debate this with endlessly. And
at that point, unless
they might tell you something along the lines of that those contradictions might disappear if you were able to understand it as equation. Right?
That's fair, yeah.
So then you're into this whole thing where you have to acquire so much knowledge just to begin to be able to have the conversation. I don't know, I'm speculating here, but
reminds me a little bit about what we talked about way earlier when we had that issue with how can you talk to others about the Dharma, whether they are interested really, or whether you're just trying to give them a little idea what the hell is going on with you.
Right.
Yeah, no, because I've definitely been in situations like that. That's why I suggested coming to it from a philosophical standpoint, because I've been able to observe from my own conversations with people, when I bring it up from a philosophical standpoint, kind of talk about concepts that have more solidity.
Yeah.
Then people are open to interpretation, but once you bring it to true Dharma, you kind of get looked at differently.
Yeah, people aren't ready for a conversation in which you're encouraging.
Of course, because 99% of the time, when it comes down to the Dharma, this is something that it directly contradicts people's current beliefs. And the problem with that is most people's beliefs are not based on logic or even personal experience, simply emotion and, well, I guess personal experiences.
Yeah.
What's been repeated to them over and over again.
Conditioning.
Yeah.
Right? So much of what we run on after being socialized is just, a big old web of what everyone else said.
And a lot of people are born into households with set beliefs, and that definitely plays a big role as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then add to that the fact that to begin to look is often quite painful, as I know you're getting a mouthful of pretty much on the daily, Doug. And we're working with that, right? Acknowledging that seeing that stuff is a success, etc.
Well, I think the hardest part about getting into it is, well, I don't want to use this word, but for lack of better words, faith, because I think the biggest thing that's going to stop someone from wanting to learn more about the Dharma or any of this is simply the fact that they haven't experienced anything. Meditation is a lot like bodybuilding. You have to do it a lot and consistently before you actually start to see results. And this was actually my problem too in the beginning. I would try meditating and I would just sit down and I would be like, all right, that did exactly like nothing.
Well, this is one of the aces that Dvorato has up his sleeve. He's very, very good at encouraging people to practice in such a way that's good right now. Be that as a result of deliberately gladdening the mind or simply acknowledging the success that's present, which we're very averse to in the beginning. When we're trained in the opposite direction of something so simple as to say, well, hey, I decided that I'm going to sit down and practice mindfulness. So when I sit down and practice mindfulness, that's a success. I'm doing what I set out to do. That's worthy of celebration. I deserve a pat on the back. That's so different to everything we're told as kids. But we can actually get a hit of pleasantness, feeling of success. And that's not, we're not having to stretch to get there at all. Now we can practice deliberately gladdening the mind. We can actually learn to, I suppose one could say that that's more like a kind of mental gymnasium thing. That is a skill to be developed.
But if you're in the, go ahead, you can finish.
I've found that people are so averse to that it can help to just encourage them to acknowledge the success that's present on a reasoning basis. Hey, I set out to sit down and practice mindfulness, and I'm sitting down and practicing mindfulness. I decided that this was something that's good for me, and here I am doing it. I'm doing something that's good for myself. I'm taking care of myself. I'm nourishing myself. And even that can take a little bit of juice to get going. We feel so like, what? Why the hell would I ever congratulate myself like that? And this is such a small thing, we tend to say. This is so insignificant. I'm just sat on my ass doing nothing. I don't deserve any congratulation for that. And then, of course, we realize, well, anything I've ever congratulated myself for or have yet to, that's all just something I decided upon anyway. Now, sure, I took on other people's value systems, first of all. But so everyone decides that earning $1 million is something that's worthy of congratulation. Of course, very few of them actually do congratulate themselves when they get there. They're then thinking about 10 million and then 100 million and then the big B. But
the paradox of wealth.
Right? So it's just a huge flip. Anyway, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I don't actually remember what I was going to say anymore. I was so focused on what you were saying.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, and that was huge for me in meeting Dvorato, was that flip to, you can congratulate yourself for whatever the fuck you want. You decide that taking a breath is worthy of congratulation. Well, there's your value system. You've just exchanged it for another value system. It's all in here anyway.
The same way. Like I was just like, yeah, why wouldn't I congratulate myself for making a delicious coffee, man? Like,
right.
I love my coffee, man.
Right.
It's a great coffee.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And the craziest thing about it is that actually enables us, should we want to go and do something in the world, we're actually more capable now because we're running on a cleaner and more efficient fuel. A fuel of enjoyment and of celebration. The celebration of this marvelous display that we call the world. Look, how fucking crazy is this? I get on my feet and I walk somewhere. Wow. Mad. Well, hey, look, now I'm teaching a drum lesson. Fuck me. This is crazy. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure everyone has had that moment where they're like, holy shit, I'm alive right now. I'm really in this shit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have that moment, though.
Well,
a lot more people than you think.
I mean, I'm saying everyone here at least.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just I'm walking on a giant earth, on a giant rock, like floating through space, attached to a giant bright sun. Like what the hell is going on?
Yeah. And of course, right, so you kind of start there at the words, right? But to have the experience of like, I'm living on the coast right now, and I'll look out, the sun sets over the sea here, and you don't look directly at the sun, of course, but I'm looking in the vague direction of the sun. I'm thinking I am that big ball of fire. But for that big ball of fire.
Yeah, I think simply the I exist is insane within itself,
isn't it? Yeah, and we can, and I'm speaking directly to you here, really, Doug. I don't know where everyone else is on this journey, but I know that pain is quite present for you right now. We can actually get a hit of pleasantness from that.
For me, even it's a bit more crazy sometimes, because what Rudolf has said is I'm sitting on or standing on the planet Earth and shit. I don't want to get into whether that's actually correct or not, but and that's something I realized quite a while ago. I've never actually verified planet Earth in my direct experience. That is a story that I've been told. And when you take this whole framework of stories away for a second and just focus on direct experience, it's even crazier, because with that planet Earth thing, there's still kind of an intellectual explanation to it. But if you take that away, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. No wonder crazy religious idol worship and all kinds of wacky explanations from different cultures that sprang up, right? No wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Well, from my experience, like we could really be living in top of an elephant.
I mean,
there's mythology where the elephant is holding up the world, and
even if you trust science as much as one can, I mean, there's still the possibility that the entire universe is resting on the back of an elephant, because we've never seen anything outside of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all breaks down in the end, right?
Yeah.
And so who really knows? And so then we once again come back to, well, let me just be all right now.
Precisely.
Right?
Okay. I can't be for sure, but I can be all right.
Yeah.
I can be okay.
Yeah. This is okay. This is all right.
Dan, I wanted to circle back a second. Maybe you've got some valuable input on this for a moment, because so far, luckily, and that's one of the things that's that maybe that's already probably the so to say the way to go. It's not there all the time, but these moments when seeing that first noble truth in action, very like I don't, maybe it's also just reflecting into everything when it just seems like, Jesus, there is nowhere to grasp anywhere right now where it doesn't suck, in a way that it can seem pretty crushing. And
wow, look at all this suckiness.
Yeah,
but that suckiness only exists relative to you, relative to the idea that there's an independent agent inside of you there to experience that suckiness, instead of it just existing separately of you.
As in the duality, like duality
Exactly.
perception, like
that subject-object relationship between you and the suckiness is
Yeah.
kind of giving rise to it.
In a way, yeah. That's funny. I've had these moments where there was like, at least for a second, not a total but a slight bit of relief when I was like, hey man, even this phenomenon that is talking right now here is part of all that sucks so bad.
Yeah.
So when you I feel like it would be a good idea, next time you're realizing that it sucks so bad, ask yourself, who is experiencing this? Where is this experience taking place?
Or where in my body am I experiencing this too? That's often one that I do.
We've done some of that inquiry together, haven't we, Doug?
Yeah.
I don't know. One thing I've come to see with that type of inquiry is that you're unable to find an answer, and with that, the question dissolves.
I think it's the thing that it doesn't stop from being painful in that moment, but what makes it a bit, so to say, better is that it's, at least for a second there, it's a bit more impersonal.
Exactly.
That's already
when it becomes impersonal, the suffering stops, I feel like, because
at least it's a bit alleviated. That's my direct experience so far.
Now, if that isn't worth celebrating, I don't know what is.
Sometimes in those situations, I think I've gotten so frustrated that I'd see, well, can I control this feeling and make it worse? Can I see how bad can this possibly get?
Flip the script.
And then you sort of realize that you're in a little bit of control, actually. I don't know, it's worked for me sometimes. And then you start to realize, wait a minute, like, I don't know. It's just something I've played around with sometimes when I've been really, really like kind of down that sort of First Noble Truth pathway of like, how bad is this really? Can it really get any worse?
Right.
And then somehow you feel more in control in that way. There's something like that, or you just see it for what it is. I don't know.
Another one on that.
What's worked for me is kind of just letting go of the resistance of the present moment.
That's great. Yeah. What you described, Joe, had me thinking about, at times I would play with seeing if I could keep a feeling the same.
Yeah.
And I found that it was impossible. We might be talking about time frames. I think it's actually more about perception. As the perception becomes finer and finer, it seemed that shit doesn't stay the same. It just doesn't. And so you play that game of, let me try and hold on. Keep the thread. And you can't. It's all changing. And given that it's changing, it's a fresh experience in every moment. And maybe it is another sucky experience. And oh, well, another sucky one. Okay, well, what can I do but laugh about it? I mean, really, it's just, it's just. Anyway, I wanted to share an image that I first heard from Ram Dass. And I don't know if he came up with this lovely image. Maybe you guys have heard this from him in the past. He spoke about a picture hanging on the wall. But all this picture was just a grey square inside this picture frame. But he said then if you take the picture frame down and you unclip the back and you unfold the canvas inside, you see that it's actually a picture of a cloud and that there's blue sky all around.
You have that one in one of your meditations on Insight Timer, right?
There you go. Yeah, these
guys, it was lovely talking to you all, but I'm gonna log off for the day.
Likewise, Ron.
Yeah.
Soon, brother.
See you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Right. You guys have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, we will.
You too.
Likewise.
So you're familiar with that image there, Doug, which, of course, illustrates that what we're doing here is we're cultivating a larger and larger picture frame. We're always looking for, let me zoom out, in effect. Let me see more. Let me get that higher vantage point on what's going on here. Is there something in which, is there a context in which this suffering arises? Or is the suffering really all there is?
Yeah, I've had it in a way. Sometimes it's a bit of a thought, still more than a real lived experience. Even though it's been there, I've been there momentarily, where it's like, maybe this all seeing all this suckiness is in this way. It could be a blessing that it's there to kind of force the disidentification from the role, so to say, to force the return to what's actually going on.
Suffering is an excellent motivator for practice.
Yeah.
But we certainly don't want to cling to it.
Which aspect, if you look at it in terms of like the 5 skandhas, like form, like body, perception, feelings, consciousness, or mental formations, like which part, like sometimes I can do this, is I'll be like, okay, which one of those is the sort of suffering coming from? Because for me, what happens, and I think a lot of people have this, is I get really stuck on like the feeling one of like negative feeling, and not really seeing it for what it is, and just being like, okay, this is just a negative feeling. I don't have to put a label on it, but it's, it's not positive, it's not neutral, it's negative, and realizing that there's the other ones to explore at the same time, that can also be useful for me, and realizing that that's just temporary too, and trying to find the smallest positive thing on one of the other aspects can also be helpful. Like usually like focusing on the hands for me, focusing on the feet, walking meditation, are often my favorites to do.
And doesn't it sound playful?
Yeah,
I love the playful quality to that. It sounds like a fun game to play. Hunt the suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm finding, but I'm able to be okay with it to a certain degree, at least. Yeah. Finding myself to through seeing this, at times crushing dissatisfaction in everything, like even things I used to enjoy. It's definitely coming with a certain degree of loss of motivation and interest in things, but I'm trying to just let it come in a way, to not
really
fight that.
That's really normal.
Yeah.
From like a lot of people I've talked to, that's really normal. And I know I've gone through phases like that for sure, of losing motivation, but then it's really freeing when you get to the point where you realize that there came a point for me, at least, where I was like, well, I don't have to think about what's the point of life anymore, because the question's not meaningful, and that's a huge relief, like a massive relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure I can also get there, but for now I think I'm trying to see it as a success, as in a development that it's even starting to arise slowly.
Yeah.
Even though it sucks a lot, and it sometimes seems like, what the fuck, man, this just no.
So you can think of it maybe like the image in my mind is like little islands.
Yeah.
Tiny little islands of relief, right?
Yeah, and even though it can really hurt when you see that even things you used to enjoy, and even if there is still some kind of like superficial enjoyment of it in the moment, often I see then, like, underneath that, still this at least seemingly huge amount of dissatisfaction.
Well, so then you play the game with that.
Yeah.
And you just keep playing, investigating, looking, seeing.
What else is there to do?
What else is there to do, indeed. And You're doing a great job of, Doug, is acknowledging the success that's present.
Yeah, you've certainly done quite a good job of trying to hammer that into me already.
Now I'm successful.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
There's a passage on the Dhammapada. I read it on Spanish, but I think it's the dump. Like, when it's a dump, not a dump. Like, I read it in Spanish, but the fool that knows he's a fool, well, he's not a fool at all.
Right.
So there's like you can work a lot with that. Like,
yeah,
you're not a fool. You're a fool. So.
And right, and Doug, wasn't that the very first thing that you and I spoke about when we connected on the phone that first time? I said to you, the understanding is all there.
Yes.
I said to you, I'm not able to tell you anything you don't already know. And it's just the process then of taking it from knowing to being.
Yeah.
Which makes it only a matter of time.
And it's a bitch, but it's apparently happening. And to be honest, there is something weirdly fascinating about reaching a point where you feel like you're totally cornered, like there's nowhere left to try to go, in a way.
This is what the Zen teachers do deliberately to their students. The koan is designed to back the student into a corner, and there's all these stories of Zen students being ready to kill themselves the night before awakening, right? The swallowing the hot ball of iron.
Yeah, the mosquito biting an iron ball.
Yes. So now, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but it's a method.
Yeah.
So what we can see that if you're feeling like you're in that kind of scene, feeling like you're backed into a corner, well, it's been done deliberately by dedicated Dhamma practitioners.
Yeah, I didn't go there deliberately, but it apparently nonetheless happened.
Yeah, and you can take some comfort in the fact that many dedicated practitioners have made a deliberate methodology out of that, right? So you're not in uncharted territory. As Joe said earlier, this is very common. Check out the Reddit stream entry if you feel like reading accounts from practitioners. There's a rich history of practitioners sharing their experience there. If you just type into the search whatever's bothering you, you'll find someone writing about it at length.
I've been actually meaning to get back to that book by Daniel Ingram and to check out if I can see what I'm experiencing reflected in some of the models that he's presenting there.
100%. It's all over all the Buddhist literature. Yeah. Because practitioners are gonna experience this stuff. Back along, when a lot of people were ordaining, they would all be having these experiences in the monastery. And so it's all very well documented and mapped out, and you can find all kinds of, I think that since you're there, you're having these rich experiences of dukkha, then I think that's when it's good to read about this stuff. I think it's kind of dangerous when a practitioner who's just getting started reads a map and sees, oh shit, I'm going to go through all of these stages of dukkha, and there's going to be this dark night thing, and I'm going to have this and that and the rest of it. And it's almost like what's the term? I forget.
Inevitable
prophecy.
Yeah.
It can become a little bit like that. We read these, well, I'm going to experience this and I'm going to experience that and I'm going to experience the other. And now, well, look at that. Sure enough,
Or the other thing that happens is when you read it, then it doesn't ever end up happening actually, and you fool yourself into thinking that a mundane experience is something that is happening of what you've read about. Because sometimes I don't know. I mean, I've definitely fallen down this rabbit hole before myself of thinking, well, this is what should be happening, and then it's never going to happen. There's zero chance that it's ever going to happen if you're expecting it to happen.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other pitfall is giving up on practicing when you're in like kind of the state that you're at right now. And I feel like I'm in and out of that state like all the time, but just over the years or whatever. But
yeah,
but if you give up on practicing and you like try to like distract yourself with work or with like whatever, it really doesn't work. And then it really comes to be like, you're gonna have to practice at some point anyways, so you might as well just do it now.
And to be honest, the practice is one of the few things that sometimes gives, or that can actually give a bit of relief, or even if it isn't, so to say, formal practice. Often these days I just have the urge to lie down, shut the fuck up, and close my eyes, which is apparently a lot of times that's sufficient practice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the best practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other part of that conversation is how much grand descriptions of awakening experiences harm, right? And there's a lot of them out there, and just like with, if we read about we're supposed to have this and that negative experience, if we read about we're supposed to have this and that positive experience, it's such a trap.
Man,
exactly as you said, Joe. The worst thing is if you're then expecting to have that experience, as you said, exactly, that is a guarantee that it ain't going to happen. But also the great variety in individual practitioners means that all kinds of different experiences are going to happen.
Yeah.
And their experiences, that's the best thing we can say about them. Their experiences, they come and go.
I'm really struggling. It's a little bit relevant to my practice right now because I'm really struggling with when I'm meditating. I feel like I'm consistently getting into like the first jhana, but I get so attached to the piti of it that I just can't take it anywhere. Like I'm like, wow, I finally feel something good and relieving.
Yeah.
And I get so attached to it that I just go so stuck.
Well, why do you need to take it anywhere?
It just feels like a dead end. It feels like I've been stuck with it for like so long. Like,
is it not good enough?
What's that?
Is it not good enough?
I just feels kind of superficial. Because it feels like a physical sensation that that's kind of strong, but sort of the mental aspect of it, the sukha, it does not feel like it's very strong. I don't know.
Well, something to try would be to see if you can sink into that experience as being good enough as it is.
Okay.
Maybe you've played around with that already.
Well, no, but I can try that. I'm looking for any suggestions here.
So. Well, I suspect strongly that would be Dhammarato's advice, certainly.
Okay.
Right. As long as we're convinced that something about that experience is not good enough, well, there's good old dukkha. Even if they're having an experience of piti or sukha, right? Well, we can still be dissatisfied with that.
Yeah.
And what do we know? The whole show is dukkha nirodha. About a cessation.
I've had
Go ahead, Doug.
I've actually had this just one of these recent days. An insight into a pretty clear insight into how dukkha manifests. At least for me, I suppose the sensation might be quite similar for everyone, but so far, before, it had often been that I could only in a way really see it when it was like really, really painful, crushing suffering. And then a few days ago, I really saw it in a way that, man, no. What dukkha apparently also really points to, maybe also to this really, really bad stuff, so to say, the really intense, painful stuff, but also to this sometimes even almost persistent or really, really present feeling of, oh man, this is just meh. This doesn't cut it, so to say. It's all right. It's all right. There's some enjoyable aspect to it, but in its core, it doesn't cut it.
And what we're to see is precisely, Doug, that is what's being created. Dukkha is the extra. We create dissatisfaction.
By expecting.
It might be expecting, it might be comparing, it might be, right? There's likely more. But it is something that we do, it's something that we create. And when we cease to create that, everything's just fine.
It
is. And now there might be some very subtle mental fabrications going on, and this is the game of investigation. This is how we learn to look and to see and to rat it out, so to speak. There's my stash. Okay, I see. There's that subtle little, I just don't quite think that this is good enough.
Right? And I've had, and it's actually a very interesting thing that's come to me, and it seems to come more often and now, where it's kind of a bit hard to describe, where suddenly when I see this complaint, this complaining factor, then there's suddenly an arising of questioning the complaining in a way, like who's to, how do I know that's it's quite hard to put into words. How do I know that that's the authority, or where did this come from?
Well, now, questioning, of course, can be useful. I wonder if you could gently replace your questioning hat with the acknowledgement of success hat. Right? It's all kind of extra stuff that we're engaging in anyway. Right? We are at the level of thinking here. We're either thinking, okay, well, I see this dukkha. Why is it here? I remember certainly a very kind of troubled kind of questioning. Why am I doing this to myself? Why would I do this?
Yeah, I've been there too.
This, right? Can we, now that's a mental process. Can we gently, without trying too hard to kind of change our experience, because of course we're going down a whole other rabbit hole there, but why not, for a change, instead of questioning, say, well, hey, you know what? It's actually a great success that I saw that dukkha.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a night.
Same here.
Great speaking with you all. Realize I know you're still there, muted. Really enjoyed.
Yeah, nice talking to everybody.
Yeah, great.
Joe, where are you from, by the way?
I'm originally American, but I live in France.
All right. What part of France?
Kind of the middle.
Okay, and where in Sweden did you live back then?
I lived north of Gothenburg.
Okay.
Yeah, in the countryside. So I was I ran a farm there in the countryside. So
awesome.
And I bought farmland down in France instead. It's a little better climate for farming. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
so not too far from you in Germany.
Nice.
Sounds delightful. Doug,
Yeah.
we're here at this time every week.
Tuesday evenings at what is the time?
Well,
9
it's 8 p.m. London time.
Okay, all right.
Calling it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Okay, guys. Really great to
See you
speak
guys.
to you all.
Great meeting
Bye.
you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.